Hello everyone. I hope you are enjoying the course and you are able to understand the things that we discussed last week. So last week, I think so we discussed mainly about the data structures like lists, tuples, dictionary, and set. We discussed these major data structures which we'll be using extensively in our course. Now time to go for some advanced coding as well, because these are just the tools. So these data structures were just the tools. Now we need to really understand the Python programming which we will be implementing. So I'm starting with the most important concept and something that is used in every Python code that you will see, and something that you might be fearing like while you were studying coding since you're like in school days, that is called loops. So let's begin the lecture about the loops. So first of all, let's understand what is loops, right? I mean, it's very simple. We understand that okay, anything that is revolving, that is repeat, basically anything that is repeating itself, right? That is called a loop. If I try to understand it in layman language, for example, I mean, when I'm traveling, we try to listen to songs on loop because there are some songs we really like. So we just press the loop button and we keep on listening them, right? And then there are like multiple things, like we use loops in our like daily life. Now, what does loop mean in coding? So before that, let's take an example. To understand the intuition of loops in coding, why loops are required. So let us say that this is a runway. Runway means where an aircraft lands. So let's say this is an airport. And this is a big runway where aircrafts are landing. Okay. Now there are two aircrafts coming. One aircraft is this one. I'm sorry for my poor. I mean, this looks like a shoe, but I'm sorry. Yeah. So let's say this is aircraft one. Okay. This is coming, and there's also another aircraft two which is approaching from here. So for example, let's say this is an aircraft two. Okay. Let's say this is approaching. Now, the person, let's say there's a person who is controlling the landings here. It is generally called ATC. You must have faced this. So he observes that aircraft 2. So basically, he observes that aircraft 2 is closer to the runway. Right? Basically, these both airplanes are approaching at fast pace, but this is closer to the runway, and this is little far, but they both cannot land simultaneously, right? They both cannot land simultaneously, otherwise it will crash. So what he has to decide, the ATC person has to decide that one aircraft should land first. It should basically land, tow away and get off the runway, then the other airplane should land in. So what will ATC person say? That okay, aircraft 2, you are allowed to land on this runway. Okay. And let's say it takes 10 minutes for this aircraft to land and go here and do taxi and like get off the runway. So but because aircraft 1 was here only, and it only takes him 2 minutes to land here. So what will this person say? Okay, do one thing, you cannot land here right now, so you have to circulate. So remember, when you if you have taken a flight, you see that at times what happens, aircrafts take circle, they take a loop around the city, right? They take a loop around city. Meanwhile, this aircraft is landing. This aircraft 1 will take a loop around the city, and it will come back again to the same position so that it can land simultaneously. So what is the condition for this particular scenario loop? That till time is less than 10 minutes. Okay, from this moment, this A1 has to do a circle. It has to do a circle around the city, or it has to loop around city. Correct. So this is a physical scenario. So what is happening? Two aircrafts are landing because both couldn't land simultaneously. So the ATC person decided that okay, let one aircraft land and let other loop around the city. So this is the concept of loop in real life, and this is the similarly we will try to bring this intuition in our actual coding. So let me refresh this particular slide. So for example, let us say you are writing a code, you are writing some particular code. For example, let's say n is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And I mean, let's say you have some block of code. Now what happens that you decide that to get some value at a particular place in this particular code, you have to do some loops. I will talk about those examples. Without looping, the code will not continue or it will basically finish up. So that's why loops are required. Why they are required, let me tell you through a practical example. So let us say you have to print numbers. Let's say you have to print numbers. You have to print top 5 numbers. Okay, you have to print 5 numbers 1 to 5. So how will you do right now? So you will do print 1, you will do print 2, and so print 5, right? You will do this. So what so let's go to the code. For example, let's say if I have to write down something, so what will I do? That I will so I will do print 1, print 2, print 3. If someone has asked me to print first 5 numbers, let's say print 4 and print 5. So okay, I print this. But what if someone asks, okay, let's do one thing, let's print 1 lakh, print first 1 lakh number. So you have to print first 1 lakh numbers. So are you going to write down all this? Are you going to write down all these numbers like 1 lakh times? Are you going to code it? I don't think, because the code will become very inefficient, right? For a small thing you're doing, you'll have to do multitask, right? It will like big piece, 1 lakh line code just to print the 1 to 1 lakh numbers, right? So this is a very inefficient way of coding, and there introduce the concept of loop, which basically technically what are we doing here? We are repeating activity. We are printing again and again. We are printing so we are printing 1, then we are printing 2, then we are printing 3. So we are repeating the printing activity again and again. So this is called loop, because if you see that if there is a task that is getting repeated but on varying numbers, so we can introduce the concept of loops there. So after this, I will continue to take the example of a loop and how to actually see how actually loop works inside something. Okay, so let's look at this workbook for this lecture is about while loop basically. So let's look at around what is loop. So a loop is a fundamental programming construct that allows us to execute a block of code repeatedly. So that is the concept, that if you want to execute something again and again, for example, in previous case we had to print number again and again till we print all the 1 lakh numbers, right? So so why do you loop? You do loop to attain a certain condition. Okay, so loop helps in automating tasks. We will see that when we do the data engineering or even when we do like normal DSA questions, we'll see that iterating over sequences. What is iteration? I will speak about simplifying complex problems by breaking into smaller and repeatable steps. So this is the overall intuition is that you do something again and again. That is the intuition of a loop. So let's see again. Let's see that example again. That without a loop, consider a task where you need to print the number 1 to 5. How would you write it? So as simple as that, as we did, print 1, print 2, and so on, right? So this is how we will do it. 4, print 5. Okay, now similarly, let's say if you have to print first 100 numbers, so we will copy this code 100 times, and we will so for example, this is 5 times, and now I will copy it 10 times, and then again I will copy it 10 times. Like it will be very lengthy code. Whereas if I have to use a loop, so what I will do, for example, let's say I'll do I equal to 1. I'll speak about how this code is run. I'll write on while I is less than equal to 5. Okay, print I and I plus equal to 1, And now if I run only this block, so let's see what all comes. I'll get 1 to 5 number easily, right? I just wrote this like 4 lines of code, 1 2 3 4. Here I had written 5 line of code to print 5 numbers. Here I had written 10 line of code to print 10 numbers. So how many lines we need to write depends upon how many numbers we want to print. But here, let's say I want to print first 100 numbers. What I will do, I'll just change this number to 100 and let's say I run it. So it will automatically print all numbers till 100. So with just the 4 line of code, I am printing numbers till 100. And similarly, even for 1 lakh, or maybe you want to write 1 million, let's say you want to write something like this, you can do that. I'm not running right now because it will, we can run it. So let's show you. So for example, let's say if I run it, it will go like this. So this is how it works, right? So it will print all the numbers till n. So this is the concept of loop, basically how loops are helpful if we use a loop. So now in this particular lecture or video, we will talk about, so there are 2 types of loops. If I speak, there are 2 types of loop. First is a while loop and second is a for loop. So these both are equally important. It is nothing that this one particular loop is more important. Both have their different use cases. Both can be used on similar problems as well. So it's totally upon your, I will say, your choice, what you like. Like I personally prefer for loop, but while is equally good as well. So it's not like which is bad, which is good. It's just the use case where we will see that later on. So let's talk about while loop. First of all, let's talk about the structure of a while loop. Give me a second. So okay, so let's talk about while loop. So what is a, so this is while loop. So if we see, there are 2 words, while and loop. What is the meaning of while? If I speak about while, means till, right? We say that, okay, while I reach there, while I eat food, please clean the house, right? So it means that till I'm doing something, please do something else. Okay, so we are saying that, okay, till I am doing a particular activity, you do something else. यानी while का हिंदी में मतलब होता है जब तक मैं एक पर्टिकुलर काम कर रहा हूं तब तक आप कुछ और करो, right? So this is while. And loop, so basically what it says, that while I am doing a particular activity, so it says that while I am doing something, okay, you run a loop, and when I am finished, when I am done with that my activity, you come out of loop. Okay, so simple. Let me break the structure. While I am doing something, okay, while I am doing something, run a loop. Okay, run a loop. Okay, and when I am done, come out of loop. Okay, come out of loop. So this is in simple English word, this is the meaning of a loop. While I'm doing something, do something. When I'm done doing that, come out of that. Okay, so we'll see the syntax of a while loop now, that how does a syntax of a while loop looks like. So let's go here. So let us look at the structure of a while loop. For example, here we are at the structure of a while loop. So a while loop repeatedly executes a block of code as long as a given condition is true. Means while something is true, so it says that while something is true. So while something is true, okay, let's read about the execute code. Okay, so there is some piece of code which is written here. So there is some piece of code which will be written here. Execute code. Okay, And when it becomes false, so when it becomes false, so you don't need to write, you just need to write this much, that while something is true, execute the code. And it will automatically, it will mean that when it is false, my code will come out. So my code will, whatever my query is running, it will come out of this. So that is the structure of any while loop syntax. So let's read about again. While condition, so this is the condition that you need to give. While something is true, while this condition is true, always remember this is only when something is true. Execute a code, that's it. So what is a condition? A Boolean expression. Boolean means true or false. That is evaluated before each iteration of a loop. For example, in that aircraft case we were discussing, we were saying that while time is less than 10 minutes, the first aircraft should do a loop around the city, and once the time is over, the aircraft can land. So this is the condition, that while some condition is true, that is while time is less than 10 minutes, let the loop execute. And what was the loop? Let airplane A1 fly over the city. And when condition false, and when is the condition false? When time is greater than 10 minutes. It means aircraft 2 has landed now, so aircraft A can also start its descent and it can also start landing. The loop terminates. So this is the overall structure of a loop. Now there are a lot of terms: iterator, iteration. I'll speak about them. What are they exactly? Let's look at a basic code which we just did above. So we do an I equal to 1. What is this I? I'll explain you about that. What we are doing here, that we are initializing a variable I equal to 1, and we are saying that while this number is less than 5, because we want to print first 5 numbers. So we are saying that while this number is less than 5, print the number and increment the number by 1. So let's see what is happening in this code. So let's say this is the piece of code which is present inside the loop. Okay, let's say this is the security guard. Let's say this is the security guard which is standing here. It checks whether a person is, so it checks if a person can enter this loop or not. Okay, and what is its criteria? Its criteria is while if a number is less than equal to 5. Okay, and what happens in this code, that if a number enters, you print the number, okay, and then you increase by 1. Okay, so for example, let's say a number I equal to 1 comes. What will happen when I equal to 1 comes here? Okay, is it let's write down the condition when I equal to 1. So when it enters this condition is true, right? 1 is less than equal to 5. This is true. Okay, so it will enter the loop. So it will enter the loop. Okay, so it will now enter loop, and what will happen? A number 1 will be printed. Okay, and I will be raised to 2. So I equal to 1 will be printed, and then now from here I becomes 2. Okay, now what happens, because this is a loop, it will go again to the security guard. Okay, it will come here. Now i's value is 2. Now again I equal to 2 means 2 is less than equal to 5. This condition will stand true. Okay, so it will again enter the loop, and now again I equal to 2 will print, and again now it will increment by 1. So what happened? Now I will become equal to 3. Now again it will go for a check here. Okay, again it will check I equal to 3, and 3 is less than equal to 5, and it is true. Okay, and again I equal to 3 will be printed, and similarly I equal to 4, when I becomes equal to 5, so 5 is less than equal to 5, it is true. Okay, so I equal to 5 will print. Now when I becomes equal to 6, and now this particular goes there. Okay, this guard says that no, you are not allowed, because your value is greater than equal to 5, is greater than 5. So Now this printing will not happen. Now this number will directly come from here and it will come to the bottom of the code. So this is how the loop structure works. While some condition is that while this number was less than equal to 5, we were printing it, and the moment it increased than that, we stopped. We came out of the loop. We stopped printing it. So this is the architecture. This is how you write a particular loop. So let's go back to understand a few more things. What is called iterator? What is called iteration? So okay. So if you saw there, we initialize a variable I equal to 1. This is called iterator. So whenever you run a loop, right, you have to basically you need to have something to validate. So that thing is called iterator. So this was the code while I is less than equal to 5, print I and I plus equal to, so basically I equal to I plus 1. So this is called an iterator. This is called an iterator, as we said, and this whole process is called one iteration. That whenever one loop is completed, it is called one iteration. And similarly, in this case, there will be total of 5 iterations because this code will execute 5 times. Okay, so this is called iteration, and we have to define this particular I. So this is how the while loop works. That you have to define a variable, initialize a variable. So you have to let's say you have to, it could be I, A, B, and it could be anything. So initialization has to be there. Okay, then there has to be a while. While is a stored keyword in Python. While the condition, there has to be semicolon like this after this, and then you write your code. So this is how the whole while loop code works. So let's look at few more examples to understand this more quickly. So the loop starts with I equal to 1. Okay, the condition. And why did we take I equal to 1? Because we wanted to print number from 1 to 5. That's why we have taken I equal to 1. Otherwise, if they say we have to print 3 to 5, so we would have taken initial value 3. So initialization depends upon the scenario. So that is something where you need to be smart. You need to look, okay, what will be my initial iterator's value initially. While the condition, this is checked. If it is true, the code is inside the loop is executed, and okay, the condition is checked again, and the process repeat till the condition becomes false. So this was the general architecture of a while loop. We'll solve a lot of questions so that you basically understand this completely. While loop is this much only. There is no other concept here. Now let's talk about one more thing: infinite loop. So what happens that it is when we write a condition while, we write this so that this condition has to break at a point. What if it has to break? Because if condition does not get false, for example, it can be either true or false. Okay, if it is always true or it is always false, it will return an infinite loop. For example, let's say I've given i's value as let's say I is equal to 1. Okay, now I write the code while I. So let's say while I is greater than equal to 0. Okay, print I and I plus equal to 1. If I write this code, what will happen? I's value will start with 1. It is greater than 0. Okay, so it will print, 1 will print. Now it will increment, it will become 2. So now 2 will print, it will become 3, 3 will print, and so on. It will never stop. It will keep on going till infinity. Okay, and now if you run a loop like this, it is an inefficient code, because I mean your code will eventually break. Your system will get hanged, or your RAM will go around, because this code is never going to stop. For example, let me show you this by running on my system. That while true, So we are automatically saying that while true, print this is an infinite loop. Okay, so if I test this, it shows me an error because because it's an infinite loop and my system cannot take it. For example, let's run this as well. Let's say I is equal to 1. Okay, and I see that while I is greater than equal to 0, print I, and I do I plus equal to 1. Okay. So now if I run this, my system will hang. It has already hung. Something has happened, right? So because this is an infinite loop, so this is something that we need to avoid. So what we do that to avoid an infinite loop, ensure that a condition will eventually become false. So whenever you're writing this while condition, you have to ensure that at some point this has to be false. Otherwise it will become an infinite loop and you will not be able to. That's why we have put I less than equal to 5. Now we are starting with 1 and we are incrementing by 1. So we know that at some point it will become 6 and this condition will become false and my value will come out of loop. So this is exactly what we need to do. We need to take care when we are writing on the loop, that your iterator will go on. You have to ensure that your while condition breaks at some time and then only you will be able to generate it. So this is all the theory of while loop. After this, it's only practice. It's only practicing questions. So I have a lot of questions for you guys. So we will discuss couple of questions. Then I will give you few as assignment which you need to solve. So let us try to solve the first question, which is we are given a question that calculate the sum of the first 10 natural numbers. So what are the first 10 natural numbers? 1, 2, 3 up to 10. Okay, we have to find their sum using a while loop. So we know that the formula for 10 is n into n plus 1 by 2. That is 10 into 11 by 2. 10 into 11 by 2, that is becomes 55. But we don't need to solve it. We need to write down a program to basically find the sum of 10, because eventually right now they are asking 10. They might change the number as well. So how will we do that? So let's understand the intuition behind this particular coding. How are we going to do? Now what we'll do that we will for this particular case we want to run a loop. So loop will start from some point. So there is a starting point of loop before where we start. Then there comes the while condition, correct? And then we print something. We know this syntax. We know this syntax. Then there is a block of code here. Okay. So suppose when we are starting, what all do we need? We need to print a total sum. We need to find the sum of the first 10 natural numbers. So we will store this particular sum in some value, right? Let's say there is a container. Let's say there is a container which is called as sum. Okay. Initially it has, so there are some numbers 1, 2, 3 up to 10 lying here. Okay. Now as a number comes here, this sum's value keeps on adding all those numbers. So presently the sum is 0. What will happen? That first number 1 will come. Okay. When number 1 comes, so sum becomes 1. Now when number 2 comes, it becomes 1 plus 2. It becomes 3. Correct? Initially sum was 0. When number 3 comes, it becomes 3 plus 3 is 6, right? And so on it's going. So if we see that initially our sum was 0, we started this, we created a bucket where our sum was 0, and as we keep on adding, so what are we doing? We have created a bucket and we are constantly feeding it values, 1, then another number, then another number, another number, another number. So that is something we will execute in our code. So in starting, we will create a value that is sum, which we eventually need, and we will put it as 0, because right now we don't know anything. Okay. Now what is our second condition? That we want the first 10 natural numbers. We want to go from 1, 2, 3 up to 10. So if you remember, we need to initialize some variable, that is I, and that has to be 1 because we are starting from 1. So this has to be our initial point. So let me clear the screen. Let me explain this once again. So the intuition will look like that you have an initial point, that you have a starting point of the code. Okay, then you have the while condition, and then you have the code here. So what are we doing at the start? We are defining a sum because we need to print the sum. Initially the sum is 0 because we have not passed any number, and now we are starting with I equal to 1. What we will do, we will pass this I equal to 1 in this particular loop continuously. So what will be our condition? While I is less than equal to 10. Okay, this will be my condition. While my I is less than equal to 10, I have to do something. Now what do I need to do? For example, let's say what we were doing, we had a box sum. Okay, it had value 0. What we were doing, okay, when number 1 comes, what I am doing, the present value of sum the present value of sum plus the number that is coming. Correct? So what was the present value? It was 0 plus 1. So now the present value of this becomes 1. Now what happens next? Next happens that we take the present value plus the next number. So what was the next number? 2. So we take 1 plus 2, which is equal to 3. Now its present value becomes 3. Now we do PV plus n again. Now number 3 comes in. So I will do this and it becomes 6. So what are we doing? That we are taking sum. So we are updating this as well. We are updating this variable as well. Sum plus I. What is I? I is this number. Okay. So we are taking this, we are incrementing it by, so we are basically adding it to the present sum. And after that, what we are doing, because we have to come out of loop, now we have to move from I equal to 1 to 2. So what we will do, I is equal to I plus 1. Okay, so it will, first of all, it will take the sum, then it will increase by 1. Then it will come again with 2. It will now again add to it, increase and come back again. And it will like keep on looping like this till its value becomes 11. And when it becomes 11, it comes out of the loop. So what becomes 0 plus 1 plus up to 10. And that's how we get the value as 55. So let's run this intuition in this particular code. So let's run a code by ourselves. So what we need to do, first of all, we need to initialize the variable. So we need to initialize variable. So we need to do put a sum equal to 0, and we need to put, it could be a, I, a, b, you can name it anything. So let's say name it 1. Okay, now I have to start while loop. Okay, so what will I do? While a is less than equal to 10. Okay, so after this you need to put this semicolon. It is mandatory for a loop. While a is less than equal to 10, what are we doing? Sum is equal, we're updating, increasing the sum value, sum plus a. And once this is done, what we are doing, a is equal to a plus 1. We are incrementing a by 1 so that a becomes from 1 to 2. Okay, now tell me, after loop, what will be the final value of a? If I have to print a, what will a become? A will become 10, right? And what will let's see what print sum. See, a became 11 because at 10 it executed the loop, and when it became 11 it came out of the loop and the sum became 55. So that's what we did here. We started with the value 0, we went with a equal to 1, and then we incremented it. So then we ran the loop and we printed the value. So this is the intuition behind this particular first code, where we had to like sum of the first 10 natural numbers using a while loop. So just try this on your systems, right? We will move to the next question now. So now we come to solve the second question, which is print the so I'm skipping this question right now because it involves some string manipulation and I haven't covered that, like f string and all that, so you will get confused. So we'll cover this question in our next of our lecture. Now let's do a similar question. So let's say we have a question here for while loop, that for a given number n, for a given number n, print n factorial. What print n factorial? You might have heard this question a lot of time. So what is factorial? I'm sure all of you know, but still. So factorial of n means product of all numbers till that. For example, 5 factorial will be equal to 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. Similarly, 4 factorial will be equal to 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. So this is what a factorial is. Like for a number n, for a number n, it is the product of all the numbers from 1, 2, 3 up to n. This is called factorial. N factorial is equal to this. So how do we code this particular thing? Using while loop. So if you know that while loop has three things. While loop has an initialization, that is start of the code, right? And then it has a while condition. We have to think what that while condition is. And then it has a code block. Okay, so these are the three things which are present in a while loop. 1, 2 and 3. So we will think about that. How do we write this particular code here? So let me just restart it. So let us say we have a box again, which is the factorial. Okay, we have a box called factorial. Now its present value will be, what are we doing here? We are multiplying. N factorial is equal to 1 into 2 into up to n. We are multiplying all numbers. So before anything, we need to keep it factorial equal to 1. Why? We remember in previous case we did 0. Why? Because we were doing sum. So in sum we have to keep it 0. And when we talk about product, we have to take it 1 because it keeps it same. Now what do we have? For example, let's say we have 5 factorial. So for 5 factorial, I will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers. One by one. So what will happen in this loop is that first of all 1 will go here. Okay. My current factorial value is equal to 1. When I is equal to 1, my factorial value will become 1 into 1, that is equal to 1. Okay. Now when my 2 goes, it will multiply with the present value of f. What is that? 1 into 2, which becomes equal to 2. Now this becomes the present value of f. Now 3 will go. So when 3 comes, what will happen? The present value will become the previous value. For example, it was 2 into 3, that is equal to 6. Now 6 becomes present value. Now when 4 goes, it becomes 6 into 4, 24. And when 5 comes, it becomes basically 24 into 5, that is equal to 120. And this is the factorial of 5. So what is happening technically here, that we have initialized a variable as 1 and we are iterating over I from 1, 2, 3 up to n. And every time we are multiplying it to the number and we are saving that value. This is what we are doing. And this is what the loop is about, that we are starting with a value. So let me show this code. For example, what are we doing here is that we have kept n equal to 1. Now as let's say we have kept factorial equal to 1, and as we increase the n value from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we just multiply it with this, then we multiply with this, then we multiply with this. So what is the starting condition of this? The starting condition will be, it will have an initializer, that is factorial, you can say it factorial, which is equal to 1, and it will have an initial value of n. For example, let's say I want 5 factorial. Okay, so 5 factorial means n is equal to 5. I want to loop till 5. So what I will do in while loop, I will do while. Now I need to choose an iterate. So f is 1, right? So yeah. So now what I'll do, while f is less than equal to while f, no, so basically we need to iterate another thing, that is I is equal to 1. That also we need to do, because we are storing the final value in f, and we are iterating the value in yes. So there will be I equal to 1. So we will write down while I is less than equal to 5, because we are iterating from 1 to 5. You will write down that factorial becomes factorial multiplied by I. And what happens? I is equal to I plus 1. That's it. So what is technically happening here? We are entering with I equal to 1, and for every value we are multiplying it with the previous product. So previous product you can say, and with the current value. And when these two multiply, and eventually we basically multiply them together, and we get the value. So let's look at the code first of all. So how to do, for example, what I will do is that let's say my initializing. So I need to keep product equal to 1, okay, and I need to keep an iteration I equal to 1, okay. So and let's say we want to print 5 factorial, so I'll do n is equal to 5 here. Now I'll create while loop. So what is my while loop? That while my iterator is I here, so my iterator is less than equal to 5, because I am iterating till 5 only. So what do I need to do? My p is equal to p into I. So we keep on multiplying it with the present value, okay. And what we need to do then, I is equal to I plus 1. I is equal to, wait a second. So I is equal to I plus 1. So I will keep on increasing. And now I do, now if I print p, let's see what, while I is less than, wait a second. So while, yeah, okay, that was an indentation problem that I will explain later. So I have got 120. Now if I change the value of n here, so instead of 5, if I can, what I can do, I can make it n, so that whenever user changes value of n, for example, let's say user changes value 10 here, it will automatically take the value, and it will let's say take 120. So it will automatically take this bigger value, okay. So that's how you can play around with it, play around with this. So we just use a while loop, basic while loop, to create this product. So this was all about the introductory class, I would say, about the while loop. There are 3 to 4 questions that factorial, I just solved this. Then there are 3 more questions. Reverse a given loop, given number, find the sum of the digits, and check if a number is a palindrome using a while loop. So this you can practice on your own, and you can comment, right? And we'll try to take up this in the next video, or maybe I'll come up with more examples. So this was the whole about while loops. The main thing about loop is that you just need to practice as many questions as possible, because the concept is very less. There is a starting, there's a loop condition, and there is code. But how do you implement it in various use cases? That's what something you need to master. And for that, you need to at least practice 50 to 60 questions of loop. So that I will suggest. So please practice it. Comment us if you don't understand. I'll come up with more solution, and I'll come up with more exciting questions on loops after this video. So thanks a lot for watching this video. I hope you guys are really going great. Please, if you like the video, please subscribe to the channel. And thanks a lot again for watching this, for attending this course. Thanks a lot.